Hi, it's Joy Foster, founder of TechPixie, and I'm delighted that you are listening or watching us today. This is going to be a very special episode. As you know, TechPixie is all about transformational coaching, and I have with me today a transformational coach. She's also an interfaith minister and a Taoist priest, and I cannot wait to have a conversation with her because obviously around this time of year, there's a lot of sensitivity around people's religions, their faiths, but also their family relationships. And in many times, this can be a time of celebration, but it can also be a time of self-discovery. And Rev Deb is also a tech pixie. So it's a blessing as well to get to talk to someone who's been through our program and knows how it works, but also has seen the benefit in her own life. So Rev Deb, thank you for being with us. I'm very excited to be interviewing you today. And I know many members of our community are going to love listening to this interview.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we recently did our Fab Box Giveaway, and you donated a book to the Fab Box. Tell us about that book, and tell us about what was behind the story the book that you wrote.
So just to say, I am an interfaith minister. I'm an ordained interfaith minister. And part of my journey was also to study Taoism, and I am an ordained Taoist priest. However, I surrendered that role in favor of becoming a Taoist monk. So I'm actually a Taoist monk, and have moved on in my coaching life as well from, although it's still very transformational, I'm actually a spiritual coach is how I would describe myself. So what's going into the Fab Box, along with loads of other fab things, hence the name, I guess, is the first book that I wrote, and that's The Little Book of Tao. So having studied Taoism for, probably at that point about 15 years, and I first came to Taoism through traditional Chinese medicine. I was a clinical educator in the UK's National Health System, National Health Service, and everybody thought I was crazy when I walked away from that career without anything seemingly to go to, and I went traveling, not expecting to find myself and then come back and know exactly what I wanted to do, but I started studying acupuncture. So I did my acupuncture degree in the UK, and then I did my postgrad study in Beijing in China. Chinese medicine and Taoism are so interlinked, you can't really separate them. So that's where my love of Taoism came from.
So for people who don't know what Taoism is, it would be great if you could give an overview.
Yeah, if you ask 10 Taoists, you'll get 10 different answers, which is the kind of the beauty of it, really. So Taoism is a philosophy, or it is also a structured religion. I use the word structure in the loosest sense of the word, really. So it's based on living, like essentially, it's living in harmony with the Tao, the great integrity. Some may translate it as the way, the path. So as humans, we are not in charge of nature, we are part of nature. And so the quest is to live in harmony with nature. So a little bit different in compared to some faith paths is that in Taoism there's not kind of one deity where it's like, adoration is for that particular deity. So I fell in love with Taoism and the always felt at one with nature, and kind of drawn to that kind of an earth-based faith path. I'd always wanted to write a book. Of course, a couple of things needed to happen. One, I needed to change my identity from somebody who wants to write a book to somebody who has written a book. That was a key turning point for me. And also, another thing was that I needed to change what I thought a book was and what I felt its function was in the world. And combined with those, then finding a place where if only one person ever read this book, and if that person was me, that was enough. Because otherwise everything else just gets in the way. So when it was actually on one of the interfaith ministry retreats when I was training in the One Spirit Interfaith Foundation Seminary, that I was discussing with a dear friend of mine who was part of that program also. And I was saying, oh, I'd love to write a book. I'd love to write a book. So, she was like, so write a book. Oh, I don't know what I'd write a book on, like, well, what is it, And I actually wrote this book in a single afternoon, having studied Taoism for, at that point, probably 15 years. And the friend who I'd really talked about this book with, she'd actually died. And on the day that it was a memorial service for her, her name was Sarah Jane. And I wasn't able to get down to Glastonbury for that. So I thought, she loved nature. I love nature. I'll go out for a walk and, I'll just be with the trees and feel that I'm with everyone celebrating her life. And as I was about to go out the door and grabbing my keys, I just suddenly picked up a bag, put a notebook and a pen into it. I wouldn't normally do that when I go for a walk in the woods. I'd take myself and these days my dog. And I just felt something's different about now. And the way that I walk, there was a coffee shop just on the corner of one of the roads. And I just really felt compelled to go in. And I thought, I'm going to write something. And as I went in, a friend who's the manager of that coffee shop was about to leave. And she looked at me, and the way she looked at me, I thought, yeah, there's something different and it's visible. And she said, Deb, what are you doing? And out of my mouth, I heard the words, I'm going to stay in here until I've written a book. And because of the road that it was on, and I said, what time do you close again? Because of the road that it's on, it's like a through road. And so it's open 24 hours. So she just said 24 hours. And I was like, right, well, you enjoy your days off now. She was going off shift. And she nipped round the back of the counter, and I thought, oh, she's saying goodbye to the staff. But it was like everything was conspiring to help me. So when I got to the front of the queue to get my decaf, the staff said, oh, Helen's paid for this. And the place was packed. And she said that she's told us, give you whatever you need until you leave. And the place was packed, and then there was just 2 seats by the window. And as I walked over, I could really feel my friend Sarah Jane, as though she was sat right there. I sat down, I got out the notebook, and I said, okay, let's write. So she was like a spiritual book doula. And at one point, like I say, it was so busy, but it was like none of that was there. It was me, her in spirit, and the Tao. At one point, someone came over as though they were going to ask for the other chair, and it was almost like they felt somebody sitting in the chair and just walked away. And I did indeed stay there, and in a single afternoon, I wrote the Little Book of Tao, which is like the expression of 15 years of my own study of the Tao Te Ching, one of the main texts of Taoism. Helped from the other side. So I wrote it through me rather than, my ego would love to tell you, I wrote it, I did this, but it was through me.
That is an incredible story. I was not expecting that. Wow. Well, first of all, anyone who has any excuses about writing a book, you just squash those. There's, no reason why you can't. But what power in that story. And I do hope that whoever does win the Fab Box There's 5 winners. I hope that they do take the time to read the book, because when a book comes around like that, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And what a gift to the world. And also just, this better understanding of what Taoism is. And as an interfaith minister, what, I mentioned in the beginning, Christmas can bring around a lot of emotions for people, positive, negative. And, there's also there's conflicts within families about faith and religion. There's also, that's the glue that holds some families together. So what are your top tips going into the festive season, from whatever background you're in, for whatever challenges or experiences that you're about to face as you go into this time period?
Oh, what a great question, Joy. Thank you for the question, and for the huge challenge that presents. And it's very real for a lot of people. And of course, some people completely on their own and facing a feeling of deep loneliness as well at this time of year. Yeah, when I've studied the major faith paths of many many different flavors, and I call them faith paths rather than religions, because religion seems like politics and marketing, oftentimes, not always. And I am a fan of organized religion. I don't diss it, but I like the term faith path. It's like, that speaks to me more of the honesty of what it is. Yeah, and there's lots of different things being celebrated at many times of the year. And at this time of year, we've got the winter solstice coming up. We've got Christmas. We've got Hanukkah. Some people celebrating Eid. Some people celebrating when it snows. Just that feeling of joy. And I guess if I was only allowed to offer one piece of suggestion, I hesitate from advice. Advice usually bites you on the butt. An invitation or a suggestion is a nicer way to do it. So I guess if I was allowed one, I would say, slow down your speech and breathe. So it just gives a minute. If it's with family, if it's with friends, if things are, escalating or tensions are rising, then just slow your speech down and breathe. And another invitation for all of us, every day, not just this time of year, but every day, I feel there's a real invitation to how can I be the presence of love? How can I be a presence of love in this situation? And that's something I've learned over many years. I am a student, a continual student of A Course in Miracles, which is, a most amazing publishing entity. It's like thousands and thousands copies published, and hardly anybody and sold, and hardly anybody's read it. But when you look at the huge tome that it is, and there's 365 lessons and a workbook and a text within that. Very much kind of written in Christianic language, so doesn't necessarily resonate with everyone. But essentially what it's asking us is to be the presence of love. So I'm always asking myself, what can I bring to this interaction? What can I bring to this relationship? And I need to bring 100%. It's no good saying, oh, well, there's me and Joy here today on this call, so if I just give 50%, that'll be okay because she'll do the other 50. No, we both need to give 100% of ourself, of our authentic self. And yeah, in relationships, in interactions, I might have an idea of what I want to give, but that might not be what the other person needs. So especially at this time of year, maybe what I want to give is my exuberance and my shiny and my bright and my love. And maybe what the other person wants is a bit of personal space. So it's just like being really mindful and allowing ourselves to ask each other, what do you need right now? And, you know, me and my husband have been together a long time. Another spiritual tool that I love is the Enneagram, and discovering the Enneagram is the reason I am still married. My husband is still alive and not buried under the patio. When I discovered I'm a type 7 personality, he's a type 9 personality. So, you know, I will say to him, what do you need right now? And he might just say, time out, a bit of time out. Just, Deb, stop talking.
No, I think that's so true. I remember when my husband and we didn't do the Enneagram, but we did the 5 love languages. And it was really interesting how my love language and his love language were actually opposites. And that's a normal, and actually it actually exacerbates the love language that you need, because the other person doesn't speak that language. And so that was a good learning for us to understand that we sought love differently. And he was acts of service and I was words of affirmation, and they're very much on that scale. They're the absolute opposite, and you have to figure out how to I started to be able to understand when he was speaking to me, but it wasn't through words. It was through cups of tea and through lunches that were strategically placed on my desk as I was working, and little things like that. Like, that was his love language, and I had not recognized it. And as soon as I started going, oh my goodness, that's his love language, and I really started clocking all the things that he was doing, it was a real eye-opener, and it made me realize, that's what he speaks, and this is what I speak. And we've had, we've definitely changed the way that the relationship works. I also am I've got one of these, we've done the color test, and I am very red, as you can see, and I have a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green, and very little blue. And he is very, very blue and very, very green. And it is really interesting when you bring those two energies together, how they have to work together. But it can be a wonderful complement if it works well.
Absolutely. And I think, if, like you say, if you're aware, my husband's language of love is doing. I'm an acupuncturist as well, practitioner of Chinese medicine. He built me an acupuncture clinic with his bare hands on his days off, and I want to tell him all the time how much I love him and talk. And it's, like you say, completely opposite. So you do have to understand that. That's the stuff I love to teach. Yeah,
and I love the idea that you don't need to do just a personality test for work. You can do personality tests for your relationships as well, and learn to work with each other better. You mentioned earlier in the beginning, and I think this is a really great point, for Christmas, for some people, or like you said, there's a lot of other things going on. You've got Eid and Hanukkah. For this time of year, it can also be very lonely, particularly as we're coming out of COVID, or actually going back into COVID. I know that the home that my father-in-law lived in, so his anniversary of his birthday is coming up, actually, but he passed away 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. The home that he lived in was it was a place where people, it wasn't fully assisted living. It was sort of independent living, if you will. And you had to be over a certain age to live there, and there's food provided, but you were still living in individual apartments. And recently, when we went to put it, we've had it on the market for a couple of years. We now pulled it off and put it into a rental market, but suddenly there were 5 empty places. In a building where there had not been empty places for years. Like, we remember when we got that place, it was like a miracle that we even got it. And now there's 5 places available. And, and interestingly enough, they didn't die of COVID. And I think when you think about what older people have had to go through, those living on their own, it would be safe to say that many of them died of a lonely heart, a broken heart, being by themselves without interaction, because they were isolated. And we're still dealing with this. COVID's not over. And I know I said coming out of it, but we're not coming out of it. We've still got another strain coming. We're going to have to deal with this for longer. And people are not just older people, but there are younger people as well who are isolated during this period of time, people of all ages and backgrounds. What's your advice for them to help them cope with the loneliness of Christmas and this time period?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And yes, I mean, the question itself interests me. It's like, what's the advice to the lonely people? And my advice would be to the entire community. Like, who do you really know in your community? Do you know who lives up the street? Do you know who lives in that flat that's literally next door? So I think we all have a responsibility. And so, you know, some of that is, could you actually wave and smile to someone? Where I walk my dog, there's a chap that sits in his front porch on a comfy armchair. He has his armchair in the front porch so he can see people go by. You know, a smile and a wave. You might be on the bus with 1,000 things in your mind. Could you smile at someone? And I know we've all got masks on, but it shows in your eyes. Just reaching out to people. And for people who are on their own, you know, there are some amazing ways to connect. And now we have all this incredible technology. So, you know, there are ways to find groups, and then there's charities that do the most amazing work. You know, aged care charities are, you know, have teams of people who call up our elders and our seniors. Now, in previous societies, those elders would be, you know, like, they would be the ultimate. You'd go and sit at their feet and listen to their wisdom. And now so many of our seniors are alone and feeling abandoned often. You know, maybe they haven't got family, or they're far from their family. So yeah, you know, any of us could volunteer to be somebody who calls up people and literally ring them on the phone and say, hi, how are you? And you get a list of people that you can call. But of course, social media, you know, that's a great way to connect. And, you know, I'm a Taoist monk. I've got an Instagram account. You know, every monk's got an Instagram account these days. I think there's even one called Monk Life. You know, I mean, come on. And I think what's important about social media is that we bring it real and raw to social media. So not just to be, oh, it's all wonderful and isn't this time of year great? You know, I can feel lonely in a crowd sometimes. So to you know, to be honest about what's going on. If I feel lonely, say, hey, I feel lonely. But for, you know, for people to share the joy, but also to share the realness and to make connections. I've made some fabulous connections through online spiritual groups and online communities. You know, then to find out, like, they live around the corner or up the road or something. It's like, this is no mistake. So yeah, I think to anybody who is feeling lonely, whether that's because they're physically on their own, I would say, you know, you might be by yourself, but you're never on your own. To find a way to reach out, and that could be through a local charity, a local spiritual group, or online. If you've got an interest, go online and, you know, use a search engine to search gardening or reading fiction, or and those groups are there, and more so with the COVID situation as well. You know, maybe we are in some ways more isolated than ever, and then in other ways more connected. But
that's a fair statement, I think.
Yeah, we are really being called now. Humanity is really being called now to step up as a collective, as a community, because let's be honest, we've wrecked the earth. We've totally wrecked the earth. So now we need to show it some love. And one of the ways to do that is to show each other some love. So whether it's a smile, a wave, a really genuine, heartfelt, how are you? You know, just reach out to others in some way.
I think you're 100% right. And we have built up an incredible community at TechPixies, of which you are a wonderful member, and a contributing member. I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about your art, and I also want to talk about your experience as a tech pixie. So tell us a little bit about the art that you do, because some people might not know. In addition to being a spiritual coach and an interfaith minister, you're also an incredible artist. So let's talk about what inspires you there, and then also why you joined TechPixies and what it's done for you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, great questions again. Gosh, it's almost like you've done this for thousands of episodes, isn't it, Joy? Which I know that you have. Yeah, I'm what I call an adult onset artist. So yeah, an artist burst out of me. Yeah, I think creativity and spirituality could really use those words as one and the same. And yeah, there's also some pictures of my beautiful adopted greyhound there, my latest rescue dog. Yeah, so the artwork that I do is intuitive, and it comes to me and through me. So again, like writing the book, my ego would love to tell you that she painted all of these herself. She created this. Actually, what I do is just really align with what spirit is moving through me, and then create whatever comes. I was really, really privileged to study visual medicine with the originator of visual medicine, Suzette Clough. So a lot of the images that you see on that Instagram account are visual medicine. So my initial calling to creativity was, I felt called to go to Morocco. And so I booked a flight to Morocco. A couple of days before I was to leave, I really felt a profound message to take art supplies with me. And so, having had a not so pleasant experience in art at school, where I was told I couldn't draw, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and so completely shut that part of myself down. I just went into the art store and bought what I was drawn to. Went off to Morocco. I was writing my fourth book at the time. And so I'd taken, my laptop, and I was going to get the writing done. And my publisher was very pleased that for once I was on deadline and all of that stuff. During the night I awoke, and I really distinctly heard this voice say, get up and write. And I looked at the clock, it was like 3 a.m. So I'm arguing then with this, like, essentially the voice of spirit saying, oh, it's 3 a.m. I'll do it tomorrow, putting the sheet over my head. And it was insistent, get up. I was like, well, I said, but it's the middle of the night, I don't want to write. And the voice said really clearly, well, get up and create. And I felt really like lifted from my bed. So I got up and I did my first watercolor painting, followed by my second, third, fourth. I mean, you get the picture. This is like going on all night on a balcony, moonlit, the smell of the sea. It was just like, it was otherworldly. And then I flopped back into bed. And when I woke up, there were all these paintings everywhere. And I was like, wow. I knew I'd been the conduit, but that I hadn't done them. And then, yeah, that just took off, and I began creating. And I decided that I then fell in love with acrylics. They're thick and they're sticky. The tenacity of acrylic is just like suits my own style. I'm just like, yeah, that's me. I'm clinging on. So I started to work with acrylics, and I decided that painting was going to be my spiritual practice, my daily practice. I'm going to show up to this. So with a big fanfare, I start a Facebook group, 365 with Rev Deb. Like, if you're going to commit to do something 365 days, let's do this together for a whole year. Day 7, I forgot to paint. And I'm like, oh no, oh gosh, right, what do I do? And there was an internal discussion with myself, like, well, I could do 2 on day 8 and then just lie about it. Or I could throw my hands up and go, oh, this is terrible. I've messed up here and my life is worthless. Or I could just go, well, I could just start the count again. So I was honest with the group and said, I just didn't remember. That simple. It wasn't resistance. It was simply that I hadn't created the habit yet. And then I was going away, and I was wondering how to take, I was going away for 2 months. How do I take 2 months of art supplies? Oh, maybe I'll sort something out when I get there. And then I didn't. So then, we get to choose again. That's one of the best lessons from A Course in Miracles. We get to choose again. So on the 21st of December, I celebrate the winter solstice. 21st of December, 2019, I chose again. And I said, I'm showing up to this real time. Come on. And there does have to be some discipline. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to engage every ounce of spiritual discipline that I have, because this feels meaningful to me. I don't want this to be something that falls away again. So since the 21st of December, 2019, so I'm almost coming to the 2-year mark, inshallah, I've painted every single day on canvas boards with acrylic. So conveniently, one right behind me. I know you can't hear that on the podcast, but for anybody watching, I just do these little 5x7 paintings in acrylic. So yeah, I'm almost 2 years. And I really want people to know that I failed at it several times as a daily practice. And, who knows what tomorrow brings. But it's become a habit now, and I show up to that, and I connect in with spirit. And I find that, the messages that I get in those paintings, I can tune into a question that I want to ask, and then allow that painting to come through me. And, in my spiritual coaching, I use a lot of creativity, writing, painting. They are brilliant tools for spiritual practice, spiritual deepening. So yeah, it's just been so important to me. So yeah, from that first call in December 2018, I then had my first solo art show in London in June 2019. And loads of other things since. And recently I've been invited to take up an artist in residence slot in Nova Scotia, Canada. So, when we open to spirituality, spirit will do for us what we feel we can't do for ourselves. So that's been an amazing journey. And my TechPixie's journey, I'd seen a TechPixie ad on Facebook for the boot camp. And I thought to myself, I don't feel like I've got time for that right now. When that comes round again, because I believe opportunities always come round again. And I am not a fan of fear-based marketing where it says, this is your only chance. If you don't grab this now, your life will be terrible. No, it won't. I'll just have not done that thing. And then it comes round again. Oh, calm down. I've learned not to be hooked in by the fear-based marketing. So yeah, I liked the presentation of the opportunity with TechPixies. It's like, you can do this if you want. You don't have to. It's not going to ruin your life if you don't do it, but hey, could enhance your life if you did. Yeah, I don't have any children, so I don't have a technological wizard in the home. It's getting on the phone to nieces and nephews. Come on, you're 5 years old. How do I do this? And they always know. So I thought, when that comes around again, I'm going to do it. So I did the summer. I joined in the summer. And I did the boot camp, and things I thought I knew about posting on Facebook or Instagram. It's like, there's a way to do this. There's a system. Really, you can do that? Oh my goodness, that's how people do that. And so even in the boot camp alone, it was just like, well, do you know what? I've got enough information now that if I was of a mind to be dynamic and go now use that on my own, without encouragement. I could go and do that. The reason that I joined the full program is because I know I would have just gone, well, interesting information, thanks, and then not actually done anything. So what's been really helpful for me is to do like the fuller program. And there is just so my favorite thing, the technical library. So I don't have to be constantly on the phone to a 5-year-old saying, you mean click what? What do you mean click that? You know, it's yeah. So if all anybody wanted to do was impress their nieces and nephews, the tech library can help you do that. So that's been really, really useful, and I've really enjoyed the interaction on the tech coaching calls as well. So each week being like a different platform. Have I fabulously implemented everything yet? No, I haven't, but I am getting there. And like the real thing for me is longer term in my business, I would love to employ somebody to do that for me. So I want to learn about it so that I'm not asking unrealistic, ridiculous things of them. And in the meantime, while I'm doing it myself, I would actually like to do it in a way that is sensible and meaningful. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just wonderful to talk to you for so many reasons. I mean, you have such a beautiful soul, and as you know, and as I know, TechPixies isn't just about technical video libraries and social media, although that's a great way to start for a lot of people. But as they go to use those networks, there's all sorts of fears and stumbling blocks that come in their way: perfectionism, imposter syndrome, compare and despair. And we find on the boot camp, we are able to even tackle those early on and get people to realize that it's not just, the issue most people have with Instagram might not necessarily be just how to use how to use it. It might be deeper than that. And so we have the master neuro coaching and the life coaching built in as well. And when you tell your story, when you told your story earlier about the book, and you told your story earlier about the art, as we all do, we listen to someone else's story and we relate it back to ours. And that's one of the ways that we capture stories and understand them, because we can find a connection between theirs and ours. And, between you and I mean, I think one of the interesting things is I feel very much like TechPixies is similar to your art or similar to your book. It's one of those things where I feel like I have been asked to create TechPixies, and that I am the conduit through which TechPixies has come. And it's a real blessing and honor to have been asked to create this incredible place where women can not only learn social media, but they can tackle their subconscious fears around it and overcome those so that they can become these superheroes. And we have seen some incredible social media superheroes come out of our community, and on so many different levels. Even if it's just, I'm a more confident mother, more confident wife, more confident employee, all the way up to, building big Instagram accounts and launching courses and, changing the trajectory of their life financially through launching a business. I do feel that same feeling that you have, in the sense that, I remember when I had to come up with the name TechPixies. And it was really, I had to come up with a name. And at the time we had a box room upstairs, which is now a bathroom, but I locked myself in the box room, took some paper, sat on the floor, and I just committed to not leave the room until I had a curriculum and a name. And the preceding story, or the story that comes before that, was that I had not planned on teaching social media. I had planned on being the project manager, and I had planned on bringing a social media training company in and a life coach in, and I planned on connecting the two of them together. That was my plan. And when that plan fell through, because the social media training provider wasn't interested anymore, it was like, do I do this or not? Do I give it up, or do I give the money back and just move on and do something else? Or do I really pursue this? And I was terrified. And I remember thinking, I don't know, I don't think I have enough knowledge to share with other people and help other people. My job was to bring people together. And that's what I wanted to do. And I felt like you did, you know, it was like, you need to go into this space and you need to shut the door and you need to not come out until you've got a solution, you've got an answer. And I was there for hours. I was probably there for 7 hours on the floor in this box room. And I had a million different names that I could have picked. And I just remember putting the word tech and pixies together and going, this is it. This is the name. And then I remember writing out a 12-week curriculum, you know, just and the one topic per week and understanding how they flowed. And I was just like, okay, this is it. And then I did it. But I remember for me personally, it was like none of that came through me. I mean, it all came through me, you know, it came to me and through me. It wasn't something that I cooked up. It wasn't something that I thought about. It was something that absolutely was given to me, and it was my opportunity to take it or not. And I think about all of the women who've come through the program and all of the lives that have been changed, not just the lives of the women who've participated in the program, but the lives of the people around them, their partners, their children, their nieces, their nephews, their parents even. The impact is way beyond just the person who is initially impacted. And that to me is the real blessing. And I think, you know, as you probably know, and as I know, when we do what we're called to do, when we do that purpose and that purpose comes through us and we find it, because for a lot of people, this is a journey to discover it. It is a really beautiful, wonderful thing. And I know at this time of year, one of the things I like to do is on the very last day of the year, I like to inventory the previous year. And I like to just look at all of the things that were accomplished in the previous year. And then I like to project onto the next year what I would love. And I capture it every year and I review the previous year at the end of the year. And it's a real wonderful exercise to do. As we close up this podcast, are there any exercises that you would recommend people do in this time of year as they're winding down 2021 and winding up 2022?
Yeah. One thing I would definitely say is, you know, that there's nothing special about, you know, myself or Joy. Everyone can find their purpose, might need some help and support, and it's always my joy to do that for people. Everyone has that in them. So yeah, finding that and being connected with that, everyone has that ability. And yeah, 31st of December and 1st of January are arbitrary dates. Use them if it's helpful to you and helpful as a label. Don't use it if it's a way of beating yourself up. Start today. What about today? Start in this moment now if you feel called. A practice that I particularly love, of course, is creating that. I'll sit with the question like, maybe show me the message from 2021 and then paint or write and see what comes through. Show me my path or my purpose for 2022 and then, you know, paint or write. If somebody's looking for a year-long process, then committing to show up to something every single day. That might be 5 minutes of daydreaming. I am going to give myself permission to daydream for 5 minutes every single day for a year. That alone can change your life because you're really allowing yourself to just think thoughts. Another great one is get a jar or a box. And my very favorite little, I know Post-it note is a brand, but other brands are available. And you know, right, if there's something great that's just happened, like, you know, oh, I just really felt blissful in this moment, or I had a great walk with the dog, whatever it is. I did my first, for a lot of TechPixies, my first Facebook Live is often a big milestone. Doesn't have to be big or small. No such thing. It's simply a thing. Write it down, put it in the jar, and then after a year, come to that, tip them all out and look at them all. And there will be things that you've forgotten. Just go,
oh, I love that. I don't have one of those. So I have this, which is a gratitude bubble.
Right. Yeah.
In order to see all the things, I would have to break it. But I do put in there, as I'm thankful for different things like my family, my team, all those things. I put those in there. But I also have this one, which is when I can't, God can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is my God can. And I've got all sorts of things that I would love, to give on to the infinite, to give on to God. And actually, I find that releases me from holding on to it. And I'm able to do that. I love the concept of just dropping little notes into something and at the end of the year pulling them out and looking at them. I'm going to have to try that as well. This has been an inspiring 45 minutes, and I know that people who listen all the way through will be blessed by this, which is why we are releasing this during the time period where I think most people will need it and also appreciate it. Rev Deb, thank you so much for being part of our community, for being open-minded, for being, and like you said, we're not special. And that's so true. We're not special. We're not chosen. We are open-minded, and we are open to transformation, and we are open to letting spirit work through us. And I think that is the difference. People who are not ready to open up their hearts to what's available to them versus those who are ready to say, guide me, show me, point me in the right direction. I loved your show me question. Show me what I'm supposed to take away from this year. Show me what I'm supposed to be doing next year. And it's like an open-ended question. And if you listen deeply and you quiet yourself, like you said, slow down the talk and listen and quiet yourself and just hear what message is there. There will be a message. It's just whether or not you're willing to listen to it.
There absolutely will. And there's no need or requirement to have a religion, a faith path, anything. I often, when I talk to Tao, I call it love. And I say, love, what would you have me know today? Love, what would you have me do today? So, yeah.
Well, and where can people get their hands on the Little Book of Tao if they would like to learn more?
Yeah, the Little Book of Tao is available through your high street bookseller. If you ask them to, if they don't already stock it, if you ask them to order it in, there are still some high street booksellers left. It's also available on Amazon. Or if you go to my website, which is debconnor.co.uk, then there is a page that links to the books. So yeah, it's one-liners of wisdom that are it's OR.
Oh, OR, sorry, apologies.
Double N-O-R, yeah. The Little Book of Tao is one-liners of wisdom that are inspired by the teachings of the Tao Te Ching, which is a 4th century text. And one I am currently translating character by character. So it's a real labor of love. So I'll come back on the podcast when I've finished, Joy.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. Well, yeah. And I also want to thank Pom Tiddly Pom. So you might have noticed if you're watching this that I am wearing Jim the polar bear, and I did an amazing interview with Han and Jess where they talked about the inspiration behind the polar bear, which was their father who used to give bear hugs. And they've offered us a discount for TechPixies at TechPixies 10 at Pom Tiddly Pom. And I want to thank them for basically being the sponsor of our podcast series where we introduced different people in our community who had created products, in Deb's case, a book and art, but also the other products that we featured in the Fab Box. Congratulations to the winner of the Fab Box. We will be announcing that later today. This is the 10th of December when I'm recording this, and you will be getting your Fab Box in the post as soon as you email us your mailing address. We can't send it without your mailing address, but we want to say thank you to the nearly 300 people who entered to win a Fab Box. We are really thankful to you, and we appreciate your support of the small businesses that are in the TechPixie community, and also the amazing people that have generously given and donated into that Fab Box. And again, thank you to Pom Tiddly Pom for their amazing support of our podcast during this series where we have been encouraging people to connect with the incredible women who have launched businesses particularly using TechPixies. And thank you, Rev Deb, for your time and your effort and your energy. And what a blessing you are to me and to our community and to the listeners and the watchers of our podcast.
Thank you so much.